Hello and welcome to the session on Azure Virtual Networks. Azure Virtual Networks is a beautiful uh, technology. We are going to go through it right now. So, here we go. Azure Virtual WAN Wide Area Network is a networking service provided by Microsoft Azure. It enables organizations to build a unified and a global network infrastructure to connect their branch offices, data centers, Azure resources in a scalable and a secure manner. Azure vWAN, Virtual WAN, simplifies the network connectivity management, providing a software-defined network solution for your company. This is a basic structure or architecture of how Azure vWAN looks. As you can see at the right at the center, we have the Azure vWAN. It provides a connectivity. You create a virtual hub. You create a virtual hub which allows you to connect to multiple Azure regions. And with the virtual hub, you can create point-to-site connectivity, site-to-site VPN. You can connect VNet connections, and you can also create an express route to connect to your data center. So with the use of a Azure vWAN, once you create the vWAN and once you create a new virtual hub, from there you can connect to the remote users using point-to-site connection. You can connect to the site branch offices using SD-WAN, that is site-to-site connection, and express route to connect to your data centers. And to connect to other Azure regions, you can connect a VNet connection. So Azure vWAN uses a hub and spoke architecture. Azure Virtual WAN follows a hub and spoke architecture where the hub acts as a central point of connectivity. Spokes represent the branch offices or the virtual networks. So this architecture simplifies the network topology, reduces the complexity, managing multiple connections. Point number 2, global reach. Azure vWAN supports a global network infrastructure, allowing organizations. It allows organizations to connect to your branch offices, Azure resources across different regions. So this enables an efficient, reliable connectivity regardless of your location, geographical location. Point number 3, secure connectivity. Azure vWAN provides secure connectivity options by integrating with Azure Virtual Network gateways and Azure Firewall. It allows you to establish encrypted connections between the branches, data centers, Azure resources, ensuring data privacy and security. Point number 4, it provides intelligent routing, traffic routing. vWAN uses this Azure Global Network backbone to optimize the traffic routing between the branch offices and Azure resources. It automatically selects the best path for traffic based on latency, availability, performance, providing an optimal user experience. It provides intelligent traffic routing. Point number 5, integration with Azure resources, Azure services. Azure vWAN seamlessly integrates with Azure services such as the firewall, Azure virtual networks, and Azure monitor. This integration allows you to leverage additional security and monitoring capability to enhance your network infrastructure. Point number 6, centralized management. Azure vWAN provides a centralized management interface through Azure Portal, Azure CLI, or Azure PowerShell. It enables administrators to easily configure and manage their network topology, policies, and routing roles in a single pane of glass. This is the last feature. It provides third-party integration. Azure vWAN provides third-party integration. vWAN supports integration with third-party software-defined wide area networks. This allows organizations to leverage their existing SD-WAN solution while benefiting from the global network connectivity and security features provided by Azure vWAN. Azure Virtual WAN simplifies network management, improves connectivity, enhances security for organizations with distributed environment. It enables efficient and reliable communication between the branch offices, data centers, and Azure resources, providing a scalable and flexible network solution. Now let's look at the Azure Virtual Wide Area Network resources. These are some of the resources which are involved in the Azure vWAN feature or capability. Azure vWAN is a networking service in Azure that simplifies the deployment and management of wide area network connections. It provides a unified and automated approach to connecting branch offices, remote users, and Azure resources through a software defined network architecture. Here's an overview of the different components. Number one, hub and spoke architecture. Azure vWAN is based on a hub and spoke architecture. The hub acts as a central point of connectivity and management, while the spokes represent the branch offices, remote users, or Azure virtual VNets. Number two, virtual hub. The virtual hub is the one that you create, is a key component of Azure vWAN. It acts as a central transit point. Like for example, you take the Heathrow Airport in London. It acts as a central point. From there, you connect to United States, New York, Toronto. From there, you come to Muscat, Oman, or Abu Dhabi, Dubai. From there, you can also connect to Chennai, India. So the virtual hub is like the key component of Azure vWAN, central transit point where all the network traffic is routed. Everything is routed there. It provides connectivity to all the on-premise networks, branch offices, and Azure VNets. You can also have multiple virtual hubs can be created in different Azure regions for global deployment. Point number three, hub-to-hub connectivity. The vWAN allows you to establish hub-to-hub connectivity, enabling communication between different virtual hubs. This is useful for connecting multiple regional or global networks together. Point number four, spoke to hub connectivity or hub to spoke connectivity. The spokes, which represent the branch offices or remote users, connect to the virtual hub using various connectivity options. There are various connectivity options which can be site to site connection, express route connection, point to site connection for VPN for remote users. Spokes can also be used as Azure VNets, which can connect to the virtual hub using VNet peering. Hub to hub and spoke to hub security. Azure vWAN also provides built-in security features for traffic flowing between the virtual hubs and spokes. It includes encryption, authentication, traffic filtering, capabilities to ensure secure communication. Number 6, network virtual appliances. Azure vWAN supports deployment of network virtual appliances within the virtual hub. NVAs are virtual appliances that provide additional network services. This services includes firewall, network address translation, WAN optimization, and so on. This allows you to extend capabilities of vWAN to meet specific network requirements. Last 3 points. It provides centralized management and monitoring. How can it be managed? It can be managed using the Azure portal or Azure PowerShell or Azure CLI. It provides visibility to the network performance, connectivity status, security policies, allowing you to efficiently manage and troubleshoot your network infrastructure. Point number 8. Integration with Azure networking services. Azure vWAN helps you to integrate with Azure networking services, which includes a firewall, Azure load balancer, Azure VNets virtual network gateway, and this provides enhanced security and connectivity options. Azure also provides Azure vWAN partners. Microsoft has partnered with various network service providers to offer managed services, connectivity options for Azure vWAN. These partners provide additional capabilities, can help with implementation and support of vWAN deployments. So Azure vWAN simplifies the networking complexity associated with connectivity to branch offices, remote users, and Azure resources. It provides a scalable, flexible network architecture, allowing organizations to efficiently manage their vWAN connectivity and extend their network infrastructure to the cloud. Deployment. So how do we deploy Azure VWAN? The deployment of Azure VWAN involves several step by step, and configuration and resource involves several network resources. So we are going to look basic step by step guide here. So number one, you need an active subscription, access to Azure Active Directory tenant with sufficient permissions, and familiarity with Azure network components, networking concepts. Number one, you create a Azure VWAN on the Azure portal. You have on the top left corner, you have the create resource. You search for virtual WAN and select virtual WAN and click the create button. Once you create it, you will have to enter the necessary information such as the subscription, resource group, give it a name, for example VWAN 01 INC, and choose the region, which Azure region. Once you provide the necessary information, you have to configure the settings for the VWAN, including the routing, firewall, and VPN. So now you click create, review, and create, and then create. Now this will create the Azure virtual WAN. So now you are deployed Azure VWAN. Now next, point number 3, you create a hub and spoke connection. So when you go to the VWAN, there are several connection options. One is the hub, then you have site-to-site connectivity, VNet connections, VNet configuration, and so on. So now first we'll create a hub. After VWAN is created, navigate to the VWAN resource. Under the settings section on the left hand side, click on hubs, create a new hub, configure its settings such as DNS settings and security. Under the settings section, click on spokes, create one or more spokes and configure these settings, their settings including connectivity, security, and routes. Configure a VPN and express route. Next, you can create an express route for connectivity to a data center. If you need connectivity to on-premise networks, you can create a VPN or express route connection. In the virtual WAN resource and settings on the left hand side, you can click on VPN sites or express route connection. Follow the prompts, create and configure the necessary connections. Number 5, deploy virtual appliances. If you want to deploy a network appliance in your VWAN architecture for advanced networking or architecture, you can choose the appliance and create and configure. Test and validation. Once the virtual hub is created, once the hubs are created, spokes and connections are set up, we can test the connectivity and connectivity between the different network segments. Point number 7, you have the monitoring feature as well, monitoring and management. You can utilize the Azure monitoring and diagnostics tools to monitor the health and performance of your virtual WAN. Regularly review and update the configurations as needed. It's important to note that the above steps provide a general overview of the process. The specifics may vary on your organization's requirement and network topology. The Microsoft Azure documentation provides detailed guides and tutorials for deploying and managing Azure VWAN. So be sure to consult the official documentation to keep yourself up to date. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm very happy to share this information with you. Thank you.